Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, July 7th, 2019, and we're going to continue our tradition, our now several-week-long tradition of having the most interesting call right at the very end. So stay tuned to the whole show. This is episode 1607. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Helm. Take back your email, files, and photos. Own your own data with Helm, a secure personal server that lets you own your online identity. Go to thehelm.com/techguy to save $50 off your Helm personal server. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, all that rigmarole, all that technology stuff changing our world, the world around us. 8888 Ask Leo's the phone number, 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. If you're outside that area, you can still reach me, but you probably need to use Skype out or something like that to call. 888-827-5536. I'm here for you, baby. I'm here for you. Here to help you with your technology woes. What browser do you use? Out of curiosity, I think the majority of people just use the browser that came with their computer, right? So if you're on Windows 10, you probably use Microsoft's Edge browser. If you're on an older version of Windows, you probably use Internet Explorer. If you're on a Macintosh, you probably use Safari, right? iOS, you use Safari. Maybe if you're using Android, you use Chrome or Samsung's internet browser. I'm starting to think maybe that the choice of browsers is pretty important. The browser, of course, is your gateway to the internet. It's like a doorway or a window. It's everything you do on the internet, you do through the browser. So that puts a pretty heavy responsibility on it for two things, security and privacy. I think most of the browsers are pretty good about staying up to date, and in fact, that's one of the reasons you get new browser versions a lot. One of the things they started doing since Internet Explorer, if you're still using that, with Edge, Safari, Chrome, and Mozilla, is they're automatically Mozilla. I call it Mozilla. I should call it Firefox because it's from Mozilla. Firefox is that they update in the background. So it's a good idea once in a while to close your browser and reopen it because it'll update. They download the update in the background, but they have to close it and reopen it. And so they let you do that. It's not a bad idea to do that from time to time. These things are the security issues with browsers are significant because the internet is a dangerous place. And so you need a browser that's really going to protect you. But I think all the companies are really now doing a good job of designing browsers that have features that keep bad guys out. One of the most popular new features is something called sandboxing, where a website, when you're visiting it, is kind of fenced in on your system. It's sandboxed so that even if it has malicious stuff on it, that stuff can't get out of the sandbox and into your system. I like that. Microsoft's become adept at that, so much so that their antivirus that comes with Windows 10, Defender, now also is sandboxing. Really a very good idea. So I think using one of the more modern browsers, and I would include Edge, Safari, Chrome, and Firefox, the big four, although there's other choices, but those are the four I think are probably most people looking at. Privacy is another issue entirely. And there's a reason for that. If you think about it, Chrome, which comes from Google's an advertising company. So Chrome historically has been reluctant to put too much into its privacy settings. For instance, tracking cookies. Now, how bad tracking cookies are depend on your point of view. The idea of a tracking cookie is whenever you're on a website, websites can do deals with other companies like Facebook sometimes explicitly, sometimes implicitly, to give Facebook a view into who's visiting their site. So let's say you go to a site, and there are many of them that have a Facebook like button on it. Well, in a way, not in a way, exactly. When you go to that site, no matter whether you press the like button or not, that site's telling Facebook, he's here again. He's here, and can even say, and here's what he's doing. And we see a lot of sites do that. Tracking cookies are even more nefarious because what happens is they set a little bit of information. A cookie is just a little bit of information on your hard drive. Sites created cookies in the first place so that they could say, well, you stopped at page 15, or this is your login. You know, when you go to Facebook and you don't log in, that's because Facebook put a cookie on your site that says, yeah, that's Leo. Let him in. So cookies are a very useful feature of the internet, but they can also be used in a nefarious way. And the worst kind is what we call third-party cookies, where you go to a site, say you go to Starbucks, and then Facebook has a little like button on there and says, oh yeah, Starbucks again. And they put a link there. And then you go to another site and they see that cookie says, oh, Facebook, Starbucks, there's an equivalency. And it's a way of tracking you as you move around the net. Why would they want to do that? Well, this is why it's debatable whether this is bad or not. The reason they want to do that is so they can follow you around with ads. So if you go to a site, let's say you go to a luggage site, you're looking for some luggage. Or maybe you go to a travel site, you're looking for some travel. They set a cookie that says, oh, Leo's about to go on a trip again. And you might notice that you start getting a lot of ads for luggage. Yeah, that's why that happens. They're registering your interest and then giving you ads for stuff you're interested in. Now, I think on the face of it, that sounds like a good idea, right? Wouldn't you rather have ads for things you're interested in if you're about to travel luggage rather than barbed wire or, heating ducts? Yeah, because this is something you're going to buy. So, maybe those ads have some informational value to you. But they can also be used in more nefarious ways. And this is the thing most privacy advocates are worried about, to build a dossier of all about you, a profile of what you do. And the reason that makes it possible is because, any given site only knows what you do at that site. But if you could combine information from a variety of sites, you could build up a pretty complete profile of what somebody is interested in, what medical conditions they have, who they know, who they visit. You can start to really build that stuff up. And yes, it's valuable for advertising, but it's valuable for other less obvious things, more subtle things. And those are the things that worry privacy advocates. That this profile can be used in a variety of ways, not only to show you products you might be interested in, but to create an interest in products you aren't interested in. Or, to try to influence you in ways that maybe, and certainly we saw that in the election, lots of ads on Facebook used to try to influence your vote. And so this is where people start to get a little worried. And this is where your choice of browser starts to become very important. Chrome might not be the most privacy-focused browser. There are a number of companies. I like the Brave browser, for instance. The Brave browser takes the Chrome engine, which is open source, it's called Chromium, and makes a privacy-focused browser. In fact, in Brave, you can turn off Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, and Twitter tracking entirely. Just say, don't block it. Whenever you see it, block it. You turn off third-party cookies, tracking cookies. Just block it. And you can set a flag, which most people ignore, but it's a good thing to set anyway, called Do Not Track, which is don't track me. And I think at some point, somebody, maybe the FTC, will pass a regulation that says you gotta honor that do not track request. Right now, they don't have to. But at some point, they're going to have to honor that. That's me saying, I don't want you to track me. I should have that right. The only thing that bothers me about Brave has its own agenda. They have their own cryptocurrency, and they want to use it to pay instead of advert because they don't show ads. And I don't know. I think most privacy advocates now are thinking, if you really want to be private, probably Firefox is the one to use. Firefox has a lot of these do not track and blocking features built in. They don't sell advertising. That's not their business model. They do make money. They make money off the search bar, but you could change it. Google pays them quite a bit, millions, maybe tens of millions or hundreds of millions a year for incoming searches from the Firefox browser. So that's how they support themselves. But it's an open source project. And I love it because they're doing things. Well, for instance, in the United Kingdom, an internet service providers group has nominated Firefox as an internet villain. They're bad guys? Well, wait a minute. Let's hear why they're villains. Because Firefox wants to support something called DNS over HTTPS. Now, it's complicated. I don't want to have to explain all the details to it. But basically, right now, when you use any other browser, your internet service provider can see where you're going. Firefox is proposing to use a protocol that would make that invisible. So not only would they not see what you're doing on that site, they wouldn't even see that you went to that site. See, your ISP sees that right now. In fact, often sells it to third parties. Yeah, I'll tell you all the places Leo went. Give me $50. People who use Firefox soon will be untrackable that way, yet another way. As so much so that the United Kingdom's internet service providers have named them an internet villain. You know what? If ISPs think you're a villain, I like you. I like you. So I think I've started to switch over to Firefox on all my systems, even on mobile. Because why not? Don't you deserve it? The right to be private? What do you think? 8888 Ask Leo. We're going to go to the phones in just a bit. Kim Schaffer's here. She's answering. She's putting people on the air. We almost have a full board, I think. But keep trying. We'd love to get you on the show. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the Leo phone number special. Toll free. Give us a ring. Let's talk high tech. What browser do you use these days? So it's kind of interesting. DNS over HTTPS means that the DNS query is encrypted. So that means that the ISP doesn't even see the query. In fact, you probably won't use the ISP's DNS. You'll use somebody else's, and it'll be encrypted like 1.1.1.1. And I love it that. Why would they put out a press release? Hey, you're the villain of the year. Why would they put out a press release? Don't they know everybody else? Oh, here, I'll tell you why. I didn't get into this, but in the UK, internet service providers are legally forced to block certain kinds of websites, including mostly it's copyright infringement, trademark content, but also extremist content if they choose, adult images and child pornography. So ISPs say, but if you're using DNS over HTTPS, we can't see what you're looking for. We can't see where you're going. We can't filter the traffic and block those sites. It's funny because British Telecom says it's a good thing. But and the GCHQ doesn't like it either, criticizing both Google and Mozilla, claiming the new protocol would impede police investigations and it could undermine existing government protections against malicious websites. Wow. This is going to be more and more of a battle as we come up against your personal right to do what you want and law enforcement's desire to know everything you're up to. Just in case you're up to no good. It's kind of not how we do it in this country, but in the UK they do. Yeah, I like Brave, but I'm thinking I might use Firefox from now on because I'm not. Brave I'm a little worried about their BAT system.
I saw you look at your telephone.
It's working so beautifully.
It has been for a month.
It is beautiful. Yes, we haven't had a problem in a long time. Safari's pretty good, I think. Safari's pretty good. I think certainly on laptop Macs, I'll use Safari. Ladies and gentlemen, taking your calls, weighing in at 110 pounds, it's Kim Schaffer.
Don't I wish? That was a long time ago.
In the blue trunks. Kimmy, don't take no Schaffer. Hello, Kim.
Good morning.
It is a beautiful day. Did you have a good 4th of July weekend?
I did.
Did you see fireworks?
I've seen fireworks every night. I live very close to the fairgrounds.
Lisa went on Friday to the Marin County Fairgrounds.
I didn't see her, but I was there.
She said they're the best fireworks she's seen in a long time. They're really nice.
Well, they're good, but they're low.
Yeah, because they want you to go to the fair to see them.
Well, they want you to go to the fair, and what happened when I was a kid was people were literally stopping on the freeway.
Oh, that's not good.
They had to make low-level fireworks.
Oh, that's really bad.
Yeah.
Oh, look, fireworks. Pull over, dear.
But I have been at the fair pretty much every day this week. So.
Oh, good for you. It's a good fair.
Yeah.
I like county fairs. We have them still here in California.
We do.
Other parts of the country still do, and I think that's a great thing.
It will not compare to my experience at the Minnesota State Fair, however.
I remember you went last year, yeah.
But, I've gone to this fair for my whole life, so there's a warm place in my heart.
One year, I'll never forget, I was for some reason flying on Independence Day, and I got to fly over in a commercial airliner over many
different fairgrounds.
It was so cool.
That's neat.
Yeah, it really looked like the whole country was celebrating. It was really cool.
And I live in a strange place where if I am on a levee, I can see fireworks show on the 4th of July. If I'm at home, you just see in the distance bursts from all over the Bay Area.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So that's neat.
So enough about us.
Yeah.
What about our callers?
Yeah. John and Mangum. He says it's spelled mangum, but it's like mangum.
Mangum, Ohio, Oklahoma.
Yes, Mangum, Oklahoma online too.
All right. Thank you, Kim. Hello, John in Mangum.
Hey, Leo.
How are you today?
Very good. Good to finally get in to talk to you about our situation here.
Thank you for calling. What's your situation?
I enjoy your program so much.
Great. Thank you.
The situation is that we would like to get the least expensive internet-only connection. We don't do any TV. We're not interested in that. We have cell phones, so we don't need a landline. We have an old Windows XP computer that's still good. And the main reason we want it is because my wife does a lot of online communication with people, and she would like to be able to use a big keyboard for all of that. So it's either, I guess, a tablet that has a phone as part of it, but I don't want to buy any new systems if I don't have to buy some new tablet.
So the key for you is the least expensive monthly fee. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, for an internet connection.
Yeah. So I don't think the least expensive fee... See, here's what happens. If you're getting internet from the cable company and you say, I don't want your TV, I don't want your telephone, I just want your internet, they say, okay, that'll be $10 more. They charge you more if you're only getting just the internet. And they do that so that they end up getting the same $60 a month out of you no matter what. They really have a set price they're looking at per customer because it costs them a certain amount to put the cable out there, and they're trying to, it was 20 years ago, but they're still trying to make that money back.
And I'll get back to AT&T, and they're the devils.
Yeah, phone company will always want you to get phone service along with your DSL, but you could sometimes get what's called a dry loop, which is internet service without the voice. It's just hard, but you can ask them. And that may be the least expensive choice. The final choice is something to look at, which is a discount cell company. And there are a number of these that offer, we're talking $15 to $25 a month service over a cell, connection. So you could buy a tablet, for instance, that had LTE built in, many do, and just pay for that. If you already have cell service from a company, you can usually add another data like that for less than like $10 a month. But that's because you're already paying for data through the phone. So that's the kind of thing you might want to look at. Do you already have high-speed internet on your phone?
Well, we did have, my son was supplying me with a phone, but then he and I aren't on speaking terms at the moment from his point of view. So,
oh man,
I know.
Kick that boy.
Just pay back. He decided not to pay the bill anymore for that phone. So, and that phone is getting a little rickety too. That
Okay.
was a T-Mobile phone.
Yeah, and so that does, if you're not already, using cell service with data, so in other words, if that's not a sunk cost, something you've already been paying for, then going out and getting it is not going to be cheap. Now there is, okay, I mentioned it yesterday, and I'm going to mention them again today. There's a cell service that I really like. I've been using lately called Mint, MINT Mobile, that is pretty affordable, and I get 12 gigabytes of data a month for $25 a month, but you have to pay the full year, and you get cell phone and text messaging. So that might be another way to do it, and then you can hotspot that phone to any device. You could say to the phone, okay, I want you to be a Wi-Fi access point, and you could use that. Does she use a lot of data, or is it just email, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's just email and Facebook and
Facebook uses a lot of data, believe it or not, because you can download all those pictures. Any kind of web browsing uses a significant amount of data. So that's one thing to look at is what your typical monthly usage is. But you can go, Mint is what's called an MVNO, a mobile virtual network operator. They resell service from the big boys, Mint, in this case from T-Mobile. And they usually do it at a lower cost. So that's another way to go. Walmart's Straight Talk and others. That may be another way to go. You might look at, I'm not a fan of AT&T either, but you might go to the AT&T store and say, hey, what's the deal if I get a tablet and data? What would that cost me? And they might find a way to do that.
Okay.
So this is going to take some shopping around. It's an interesting. Do you want to get cell phone service again?
Well, we have these free telecom government phones, because we're on food stamps. So anybody on food stamps get these ZTE phones, and I don't use mine for anything but a phone. My wife uses her for getting on the internet and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So money's tight, and this is a tough one. Honestly, I think this is one of the reasons, the telecom companies in this country are very, very powerful, and they really don't want things like municipal Wi-Fi. They've gone state by state to the state legislatures and say this would be unfair competition if the city of Mangum decided to offer Wi-Fi to its and many cities tried to do this because it's good for the city, it's good for their economy, it brings in business. But they made it outlawed. So you might check to see if you've got some sort of municipal Wi-Fi or subsidized Wi-Fi. This is, in my opinion, is a very important issue. Everybody, regardless of income, needs access to the internet. This is increasingly the way we communicate in this country. And I honestly think that's. Do you get data with your government phone?
Yeah. No. Well, it's intermittent. My wife says it's intermittent.
It's not very good quality. Okay.
Not always available,
Yeah. So that's probably the best buy, but if it's not reliable, that's kind of a pain.
Well, she could use it when it was working. I mean, she can arrange her day when the service is working. She can do her online stuff, and when it's not, she can paint or do something.
There you go. So that may be your best. You're already getting a good subsidized rate on that. Do they say how much data you can use a month?
How much data a month do you use there? 2.
Okay. It's not a lot, but it might be enough for her to catch up on what the kids are up to and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if she wants to buy a new tablet, can she use the free government phone number on her new tablet?
If it does something called hotspotting. So look in the phone and see if you can turn on a hotspot. What a hotspot is, it makes the phone a Wi-Fi access point. If it does that, anything can join it. Anything with Wi-Fi can join it. So that's the thing to look into, is whether you can do hotspotting. And I'm not familiar with the Obama phone rules, so I'm not sure whether they let you do that or not.
Yeah.
You should also, who's the cable company in your area?
Cable One is one of them.
Comcast has a program for low-income veterans and seniors and so forth for $10 a month. It's called Internet Essentials. InternetEssentials.com, and it's actually a pretty good deal for $10 a month.
Well, I qualify for both of those.
Yeah, right. So that might be, go to internetessentials.com or call.
Okay.
Let me see if I can get a number for you to call, and you can find out. They may not be in your area. That's the real drawback, is that they're not in every area. They even will provide you with a low-cost computer, which is pretty cool. Let me see if I can get a phone number here. They don't ever want anybody to call, ever. And it's funny, because if you don't have internet service, how are you going to apply for this?
Yeah.
without internet service.
I got my free government ZTE phone. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I would take advantage of all of these things. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. So that would be, if you have Comcast and Magnum, that would be one other thing to look at it. internetessentials.com. It's time for our car guy, Sam Abuelsamid. He is principal researcher at Navigant Research, an expert on all things automotive, joins us every week to talk about the car and the technology of the car. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Leo. How you doing this
Happy
week?
4th.
Same to you.
Thank you.
And it's much happier for my dog now that the 4th is behind us.
Yeah, we locked the cats in. Yeah, all those explosions. The animals don't like them. So
Daisy was tucked into the bathroom behind the toilet the whole night.
Poor Daisy. Oh, she doesn't know what's going on.
No. Oh, this was her first one, too. I mean, she's just a pup. She's only 8 months old.
You ever tried the Thunder Jacket, that tight blanket you put around him?
Yeah, I have not tried it. I remember
hear good things about
Dick
it.
talking about it years ago when it first came out.
Dick DiBartolo uses it for his dogs. Yeah, Thunder Blanket or something like that. So what do you want to talk about today, Sam?
Marketplaces in the car. So this is something that's coming into your dashboard, whether you like it or not. You don't have to use it, of course, but it's coming. It's already
I don't
there
want
in some
ads on
cars.
my car. What are they talking about?
Well, it's not so much ads on your car, but there are actually some really useful applications for this. So a couple of weeks ago, Fiat Chrysler announced that they were adding the Uconnect market to their Uconnect systems on 2019 and 2020 models and all the new ones going forward. GM has something similar in their OnStar system in a lot of their vehicles. Ford has something. Other manufacturers have similar systems.
Can you disable it?
I don't know if you can actually fully disable it. You can just not use it. There's nothing, because what it's not doing is it's not pushing ads to you. I talked to their marketing manager at Chrysler a couple of weeks ago at an event here, and he said they have no plans to ever push any ads or any kind of deals out to you. It's there, it's passive, but it's available.
What is it?
And there's
if
actually
it's not ads, what is it?
So essentially what it is putting some apps on the screen in your car to give you access to certain kinds of services. Like I think one of the ones that's most useful is parking. It's estimated that about 20% of the energy used for driving in urban areas is wasted just driving around trying to find a parking space and
hate that.
just trolling for a parking space. So imagine if wherever you're going, you could put in your destination in the nav, say find me parking near my destination, and reserve me a parking space. And then it just it does that and tells you exactly where to go. You drive in, park your car, no trolling around looking for a place to park the car.
This requires, and this is where I get excited, data from the parking lots being sent to your car so that the car can query the parking lot, say, you have any spaces? And then it can say, there's some spaces. That's where I get excited, where you get this kind of communication.
Right, and that's starting to happen. More and more parking lots are keeping track of. They know how many parking spaces they have. They're keeping track of cars as they go in and out, so they know how many parking spaces are available, and they're making that available through APIs, through various services. There's various third-party providers that aggregate this information. And usually in any given city, there's usually one company that has a contract with the city that manages all the parking lots and parking garages in a particular city.
This would show up in your car, on the screen in your car, as, say, parking.
Yeah, so there would be an icon that says parking. You can tap that, knows where you're going, and say, find me a parking spot and pay for it. And what you would do beforehand is you would set up your account and tie one of your cards to that, or you can even load up in the case of the Uconnect system, you can load up a wallet with some money, and then when you reserve a parking space, it'll reserve a space for you. So that way, that parking garage or parking lot will keep a space available to you. So when you get there, they'll know, if they have, 5 spaces that are reserved and there's 5 spaces left, at that point, it'll say full. So anybody just driving up won't be able to get in and take your parking space. But you can drive right in and it's already paid for, and you just park your car and go.
Now, of course,
so
it's just a matter of time before the car companies take a little extra something from a parking lot
and
to
this
steer
is
you.
Exactly, this is exactly why they're building it into the infotainment system in the car, because
it's a revenue model.
It's a new revenue stream for them. So they're always looking for some new ways to make some revenue, and
everybody's
so they're
got
probably
an angle.
getting some affiliate fee from this.
I just hate this. Everybody's got an angle. Jiminy Christmas.
Yeah.
I already paid a lot of money for that car. They really need to make more money. Apparently so.
They apparently do.
Yeah.
And then other kinds of services. Obviously, vehicle service. Maintenance is another big one. Increasingly we're getting predictive maintenance systems built into cars. So manufacturers will collect telemetry data from the vehicles, and they've got models of when certain things are expected to fail, or if you need an oil change based on the signals they're getting off your car. They can tell you, hey, you're probably going to need a new battery in the next 2 months.
But you don't think
they're going to schedule a service appointment?
That's good, and of course that'd be very useful. But you don't think they're going to blatantly say, hey, there's a Starbucks next door. I see you're getting sleepy. Would you like a cup of coffee? You don't think they're going to start putting ads in there?
Ads, I don't think so. They will have, in the case of GM, Starbucks is one of their partners.
And Starbucks isn't giving them any money for that, are they?
Well, they probably are.
Okay, then it's an ad. Then it's an ad.
It's an ad, but they're not pushing it to you. That's all I'm saying is that they're not throwing up an ad up there.
That's good. Because that's distracting. If they did that, I'm sure the National Highway Safety Board,
right?
The
manufacturers know that, and they're trying to avoid that.
But if there's a little button, so what is it? Is it a Starbucks button on your screen there, or what does it look like?
Yeah. You have the Starbucks button, and in your Starbucks account, you would save your preferred drink, whatever that might be. Some kind of fancy frappuccino thing,
Press the
or just a
button.
regular coffee.
It'll be ready for you,
Press
and the
the
car
button,
takes you to where oh man.
Right, and it knows where you are, where that store is.
Sure.
And if you're 15 minutes away and it takes 5 minutes to prepare it, they will wait until 5 minutes before, so it's ready when you get there. Similarly, Domino's is another one that has deals with Ford and with Fiat Chrysler. If you in your Domino's account, you can set up your favorites, one tap, and it'll order the pizza for you, and when you get there, it'll be ready to go.
That's actually cool and disturbing at the same time.
I know. It's all of these things are a little disturbing. So, like I say, some of them are far more useful and I think valuable. Like parking. Parking is the big one that I think has the most real value, and service and maintenance are the two big ones.
Yeah.
The others are all they're more convenience things. And as I said, the manufacturers are trying to design the systems to minimize the interaction that's available, especially while you're driving. So typically it'll be very restricted what you can do. It's, just picking, tapping for a favorite and placing that order. Anything beyond that, they're generally not going to allow.
Okay. I'm just thinking all the things. You could have a motel, you could have a gas station.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I notice on the screen behind you.
EV charging is another big one.
EV, yep. I noticed on the screen
so
behind you, it says featured brands and offers. Is that real, or is that just an?
Yeah, that's the screen from a GM vehicle.
Wow.
So they have partnerships.
That's
some of their
crazy.
partners are Shell and Starbucks.
I'm not sure how I feel about this. I guess you'd have to pull up the featured apps, and then it'd show you too. Because otherwise, it's distracting while you're driving. Sam Abuelsamid, he's our car guy, principal researcher at Navigant Research. And he's talking about the future of automobiles. It really is getting more and more like a smart car.
Certainly is.
They're going to get right up to the edge. They're going to go right to the edge of advertising.
They will. I mean, I know that they have researched pushing out deals to the screen, but everyone I've talked to has said we have no plans to do it. We've researched it. We don't think it's a good idea. At some point, someone will probably do it, and it will probably cause a problem for somebody. But for now, at least, no one's planning to do it.
Yeah, because they don't want those distractions.
Yeah,
I could think of I guess it makes sense. It's a benefit to the end user because if you get a deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah. And as I said, the parking one is a big one in
That's
terms
huge.
of actual energy savings. Because so much energy is wasted, so much fuel is wasted just driving around trying to find a place to park. And you go to a place like San Francisco or in LA or Chicago or any other big city, it's a real pain to try and find a parking spot.
It doesn't matter what we do. We're going to end up being completely surveilled by all these companies at all times.
That is true, and it's only going to get worse with autonomous vehicles.
Yeah. Because your car knows. OnStar knows where you are at all times.
My car has no idea where I am.
Yes, because your car's from the '90s, back when.
That's right.
Back when things were still private.
That's right.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. It's just, I feel like we might as well just give up. We were talking at the beginning of the hour about how to try to use a browser that doesn't track you as you move around the internet. And then immediately Sam says, oh, by the way, your car is going to know everything about you. It's going to offer you services. It's not an ad. It's a service. It's just hopeless. I feel like, there's so much money to be made. There's such a strong commercial incentive to do this that it will be almost impossible for us to avoid being constantly tracked and advertised to. Might as well just give up, right? Or move to a cabin in the woods. Jay in Ponte Vedra, Florida. Hello, Jay. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Actually, the name is Jerry.
Hi, Jerry. Sorry about that.
Hey, that's okay. Hey, I've been listening to your podcast for the last few weeks. I've listened for years, but I noticed in the last few weeks you've had a lot of questions about upgrading to Windows 10 from Windows 7.
Yeah, because Windows 7 is going to end of life in January. Yeah.
Exactly. And I do a lot of Windows 10 upgrades because I help seniors that they're the generation that put this off because they didn't want to do the learning curve.
And they didn't want to change.
They thought maybe Windows 7 would outlive them. So,
I completely honor that, and I think that's great. And the chances are Windows 10 will outlive us all because Microsoft says that's it. We're done. There's no Windows 11. So what do you do? Give me your experience because I'm very curious.
Well, about a year ago, I was doing a Windows 10 upgrade, and I was trying to find the fastest way to do it. I'm retired IT. And I came across this URL on a Microsoft website, so I threw the URL in Internet Explorer, and it started the upgrade. And I sat there,
that's nice,
waiting for it to ask me for the key code, and it never did.
Never did.
Never did. It authenticated and gave me a digital entitlement, and I thought, well, what just happened? Because the Windows 10 had never been on that machine. And I thought it was just a fluke. So I did many more, and I never have had a problem with just this URL that I came across.
Well, give us this magic URL. My goodness gracious.
Well, and so I thought, well, is this some fluke? So a few weeks ago, I put together a brand new system for a guy who wanted a customized computer. And when I put it all together, I thought, I'm going to throw Windows 7 on it. So I threw Windows 7 on it, and I authenticated Windows 7, and then I threw in the magic URL, and sure enough, it upgraded me to 10, and everything authenticated. So then what I did was I formatted the hard drive. I took my USB of Windows 10 media and installed it from there on a clean hard drive, and it saw the digital entitlement, and that's right. It was great.
That's the good news. Once a machine is authenticated, that is, Microsoft says, yes, this is a legitimate copy of Windows 10, from then on, that machine can always install Windows 10 without a serial number or anything.
Don't you think Microsoft would be interested in knowing that you can do this for free, or is this something that they offer?
So I think we've been talking about this a lot on our podcast, Windows Weekly, which is, that's for the hardcore Windows enthusiast. There is,
Right.
I think, some considerable evidence that Microsoft is so anxious to have everybody just move to Windows 10 that they've left loopholes for upgraders. They don't publicize them. Remember, the first year of Windows 10, they said everybody with Windows 7, 8.1 can upgrade for free. And once you upgrade, you own it forever. They stopped doing that after a while, but there were still some loopholes. For people using any kind of assistive technology, if you're blind or deaf or using maybe it's hard for you to type, and this is a pretty broad definition. They said, yeah, you can continue to upgrade for free. That went on for a while. There's some evidence that if you have a serial number for Windows 7, like if you ever purchased Windows 7, you can use that to upgrade to Windows 10 to this day. And I wonder if that's maybe the loophole you're finding.
Well, that I don't know, but I'll tell you how to find it.
Yes.
I'm sure, if Microsoft doesn't like it, they're going to hear this and they're going to...
Well, but that's the thing. There have been articles about this kind of thing for a long time. This is the first time I've ever heard of a page you can just go to on a machine and get automatically upgraded.
It's not really a page. If you go, you're sitting in front of...
I'm sitting in front of a Surface Go. It's already Windows 10, but I'm going to do it anyway. Go ahead.
That's okay. Windows 10.
Yep.
If you go to the media creation page, and I know you've been there a million
Yeah, we send people there all the time.
all the time.
Yeah.
Well, if you go there on a Windows 10 machine, at the top you see there's a button you can click to go to the latest version of Windows.
Yeah, download Windows 10 disk image, ISO file. Yeah.
Well, actually, above that, you can. There's on the pages I go to, it says download it's the recent copy. You push that button and it just upgrades your computer.
Yeah.
Now, if you're on Windows 7 and you go to the creator page, you don't get that button.
No. You don't see the update now button. But you're saying that update now button, that URL,
if you
copy it and paste it.
Yep.
And it's like go.microsoft.com/FWlink/ Yeah. I'll put this in the show notes. And let's not tell Microsoft, everybody, you're sworn to secrecy.
Yeah. But if you go to Windows 7, put that in your browser. It has to be Internet Explorer because that's the one they use.
Yeah.
And it will download. You remember the agent that it put on your computer when the initial free copy came up?
Yes.
So it authenticates that your computer is qualified to run Windows 10, and then it goes ahead and does the update. It authenticates you, and it gives you your digital entitlement, and bingo bango, you didn't have to pay $130 or whatever it is.
That's very interesting. Wonder what that, I think Microsoft knows about these. I don't think they want to publicize it.
Well, it would be real easy to stop because, of course,
sure.
when you're going to the creator page, it's authenticating your OS at that point because you're getting different pages. But that URL, the go.microsoft, is not being authenticated. You're not authenticating the OS because you're already there.
Yeah, in theory, you wouldn't get that link if you weren't ready to do it.
Exactly.
Wow. It may be that it's a bug, and now that you've announced it to the world, it will be fixed. Let's rewind. Okay. Now, you said there's some way to do this? Well, I don't want to put that on the air, so thank you anyway, Jerry.
Okay.
That's really interesting. We will put this in the show notes. It's my opinion, because there are lots of these loopholes. The Microsoft's aware of it. They don't want to publicize it. They don't want anybody to think you can get Windows 10 for free. But on the other hand, if you do, they're not unhappy about it because, honestly, they'd like the whole world to be using Windows 10. This is really, I think what really has happened is Microsoft has, and this is since their new CEO, Satya Nadella, came along about 5 years ago. Microsoft has finally acknowledged in its heart, and it didn't want to ever acknowledge this, that the days of making money on operating systems are pretty much over. You don't have to buy the operating system on Mac OS. Linux is being given away for free. It's a very capable operating system. Microsoft invented the notion of selling bits way back when and made a very pretty penny on it for years. It's not the same with application software. You can still sell application software, but I think operating systems, they realize the writing's on the wall. So honestly, that's why they're saying Windows 10 is the last version of Windows. They're not going to try to make money on operating systems anymore. While they would love for you to buy Windows 10, they understand this is kind of the end of the line for this. So that's my theory about it. Hey, I really appreciate that, Jerry. That's a great tip. I can't publicize it, but I think that's a great tip. Thank you. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We'll put it in the show notes. That's not publicizing it. Nobody reads our show notes. That's really interesting. So you will just go around when seniors come to you and say, I'm Windows 7. You'll just click that link.
I get a lot of referrals like through senior centers.
Yeah.
I'm retired IT, so I help a lot of.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that.
I hear a lot of people on your show that call in. And, I just wish I could reach out to them, and
yeah.
I can help you.
And you know what? I'm going to mention this on Windows Weekly. I'm going to talk about this on Windows Weekly. And, I just wrote a column.
It works great. I mean, I've done this probably 50 times. So it's not like I just came across it. It's out there.
Yeah.
And it works. Yeah.
I think that's fascinating. And it's a clever hack. Did you think of it?
Well, I was doing the upgrade on the 7 machine. I was sitting there with my Windows 10 machine next to me, and I thought, well, I wonder if I could do this. It was just a stupid, whims, and it worked fine.
So this is the one that has question mark FW link question mark link ID 799-445.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes.
It's not all that long of a URL.
No.
I mean, you don't get. Of course, it doesn't take you into any page. It just starts it downloads the upgrade thing, and then you just go. It downloads a little file. You open it, and it's just like on the original release when they came out with the upgrade.
Yeah, this is Paul Thurrott's been saying for some time that there are still numerous loopholes, and everybody who writes about Windows is reluctant to publish stuff like this. Not so much because they don't want Microsoft to know, but just because they figure it's going to change, and I'm going to publish it. I'm going to look, I'm going to look foolish. But honestly, I think that's a great tip, and we'll just kind of keep it in the back, keep it in the back waters there.
We're just about at the end of the era anyhow, so I mean, at this point,
that's exactly why I don't think Microsoft cares. I really don't.
Yeah.
And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised come January if they just say, "Oh, screw it, you can all upgrade to Windows 10."
Yeah.
They're going to wait to the last minute, but they don't want this headache of all these people. It's been a nightmare with Windows XP. That the last caller is running Windows XP, and it's it's been a nightmare. Now, if I'm running a bare metal machine, that link will work still?
Well, if you install 7 and authenticate...
You have to have some operating system. Could I do it? I wonder if it would work if I had XP.
I've never tried that. But I don't think you couldn't go from XP to 10, could you?
No. So this is an upgrade link.
Probably.
Yeah, this is an upgrade link. Yeah. Interesting. Wow, what an interesting... I think they're leaving it there. I think
they may be.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just kind of crazy the way I stumbled across it.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing it with us. That's fantastic. I'm going to ask. I'll mention this on Windows Weekly on Wednesday and ask Paul and Mary Jo if they're familiar with this. I bet you this. Now, if we say it on Windows Weekly, Microsoft does listen to that. They will.
Do they?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. In fact, big shots at Microsoft listen to that one. So maybe I won't mention it.
Yeah. There you go. We'll mention it off air.
Yeah, off air. I'll ask him off air. There you go. I won't say it on the show. Really interesting. Do you think that just downloads the ISO? Actually, that's been a big complaint about Mint or Chandra is that they don't honor upstream upgrades a lot. I don't know if that's maybe you're not there's 3 Debians. And Debian Stable does not update very fast, but that's the whole point of Debian Stable. I prefer rolling installations. But For my servers, I use Debian Stable because I don't want to break it. But on my desktops, I'm using Pop! OS, which is essentially Ubuntu/Debian. And that's, I don't know. I think they must be rolling because I get upgrades every day. Yeah, Debian Stable is very slow, much slower than Mint, much slower than anything. But then there's Debian, I can't remember what they call it. There's basically a beta channel and an alpha channel. I wouldn't use the alpha channel, but the middle channel is what I usually use. Stretch. Except I don't think it's Stretch anymore. But that one gets updates. I would say at least as often as Mint. The problem with Mint is the Mint team sometimes ignores upstream. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk tech, computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches. We've been talking a lot about privacy on this episode. Certainly could talk more about that. 8888 Ask Leo, or just little things that are not going right in your technological world. I'm always glad to help out. 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. I was really relieved to see that Apple, according to one of the number one Apple rumor guys, Ming-Chi Kuo, he has his finger on the pulse of manufacturing because he's in China. Actually, he's in Taiwan. But he knows, he hears all, he knows all, and sometimes he tells all. He says Apple in 2019, later this year, will release a MacBook Air, and then next year in 2020, a MacBook Pro with a real keyboard, with a better keyboard, a scissor keyboard, instead of these horrible butterfly switches. Now, I know a lot of people say, oh, that they're fine, Leo, but I can't bear them. And they've had a big problem with reliability. This would be fascinating if Apple, this has been unprecedented. Apple finally said that the Mac Pro that they made in 2013 and never updated, yeah, that was a mistake. They've fixed it with a brand new one that'll be coming out later this year that looks spectacular. They admitted it. They say, we kind of made a mistake. Maybe they're admitting a mistake here, too, with the keyboard. That would be amazing. Shar on the line, Cambridge, Minnesota. Hey, Shar, thanks for hanging on. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Wonderful to talk to you, my friend.
Thank you for calling.
Yeah, I'm the guy with the girl's name, so I have to live with it.
What, is it short for something?
My mother made it up.
Mom, you're like a boy named
Mom.
Sue. How do you do?
That's close. Nobody mentioned it at the hometown because they knew me.
Yeah, Char's a great name. I think it sounds beautiful. People think it's short for Charlotte. That's why they think it's a girl's name. But Char is a great name.
I did get my mail called to Miss Char Feldheim until I was 50 years old.
That's all right. I got mail the other day to Helen Laporte. So it happens. It happens. Mistakes happen. Mistakes were made. What can I do for you, Char?
Well, I just want to follow up on something. I called about 2 years ago, and I had an aftermarket iPod 30-pin connector, and I wanted to get some photographs off.
Ah, yes.
And it would not recognize it.
Oy.
But because I'm just stupid and I keep pushing buttons until something happens, I found another iPod connector, a genuine one.
Ah.
That fixed the problem.
Good.
I just want to,
so it was a bad cable. And this is really the bane of people, especially when you're shopping on Amazon, is that there are a lot of cables that, pretend to be fully compatible and are not well made. Always look.
It worked fine for charging and everything else.
It didn't have the right pins for data. Yeah, that can really happen with any cable. USB Type C cables now, the new USB 3 cables. Those they can be for charging, they can be for data, and it's not clear. And often, and this is the real problem, the vendors lie on the copy on Amazon. Amazon does nothing apparently to check it. So what we always say is buy.
The rodeo quite a few times.
Yeah.
We recognize this stuff.
Yeah.
Here's something that occurred to me and happened on my machine just recently.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a demand on my Chromebook. Well, of course, I power washed it, and that went away.
Good.
But
Beautiful part about Chromebooks, you can power wash them.
oh, wonderful!
Isn't it?
2 days ago, all of a sudden, I got this orange screen. Do not close this. You know, literal warnings, right? All the stuff you get.
Yeah.
And he gave a phone number to call
Yeah.
Microsoft.
No.
I closed it anyway.
Good.
And then
Microsoft never does that. Never does that. Never does that. So that's a scammer. Was it on your Chromebook?
No, this
It was on your
my-
Windows
my
machine. Yeah. They never do that. If you see that, if you see a pop-up saying, you know, this is Microsoft, call us. If you get a call from somebody saying, hello, I'm calling from Windows, you've got a real problem, that's not Microsoft either. They don't do that. Those are scammers. And what they're trying to do is get money out of you and or hack your computer. So don't fall for it. I'm glad you didn't.
I have heard that they were always talking to me like this.
Well, Microsoft has accented call service people as well. So that's not the only way to determine the validity of it, but it is often out of Indian call centers. And what the irony is that often these guys during the day actually are support people.
I've heard that.
They're doing this for real, and then they're freelancing at night, or the companies decide to make a little extra money on the side, and nope. Now they're being bad
unusual
guys.
happened here, and I have to remark this. The entire screen went orange.
Yeah.
A little pop-up came on the screen, said, do not close this under penalty.
So
or
understand scammers. It's a big red flag when somebody's saying, this is urgent, act now, you could be in trouble, you're being ripped off. Whenever you see email, websites like that, scammers know that if they can scare you and get you to act without thinking, it's much more likely you'll fall for their ploys. So they're always going to play on that.
Real quick.
Yeah.
But another one came up last night, which struck me as odd. Same genre, but this one was a full white page. And, of course, from experience, I just close the sucker. And because you never know if it's just a one-time thing, I did a reboot. And, you know, that has left it okay for today, as far as I'm concerned.
So the issue on something like this is it could either...
Did not catch it.
Yeah, it may not be a virus. So there's various ways to do something like this to your computer. You can actually, it's easy enough, write a web page that does this. So if you're surfing along on the internet, you got your browser open and this happens, it could very easily just be that page that you're on. And if you can't close it, because they can even make it so that you can't close the window. If you can't close it, you can hit Control-Alt-Delete to get the task manager open and just exit out of the browser, because that's where you're getting it from. Now, if you don't have a browser window open at all, and you're sure about that, and you're still getting these pop-ups, then they've put something on your system. And that's more a cause for concern, because now you've got to figure out what it is, remove it. And the thing is, if they were able to get one thing on your system, that means they had access to your system in a way that they could put many things on. And this is the real risk of companies that offer virus removal tools, things like Malwarebytes, antivirus companies. They may detect 9 out of 10 things put on there and remove them, but they cannot guarantee they've got them all. And it could be that one, in fact, it almost certainly is the one that's most hidden is the one that's most dangerous. So if closing the browser works, and, you know, sometimes they can lock it up so that you can't close it. That's why you use the task manager, Control-Alt-Delete, and go to the task manager and close it. They can't block that. If that works, don't worry about it. It's just the browser. Don't go to that site ever again. Incidentally, it can be legit sites. That's the other problem. It can be completely legitimate sites where this is happening because sites get hacked all the time. So a site gets hacked, what's the hacker going to do? They're going to put stuff on there that will hack anybody who visits the site. So don't blame the site. But don't go back to the site until they fix it. Nowadays, most modern browsers, is another reason to use a good modern browser like Firefox, Chrome. Those are my two preferences. Brave if you like Chrome, but you don't want the ad stuff. Have malware detection systems, and most of the time will flag a site that has bad stuff on it. But if it happens and it's a site and it just didn't know about it, didn't happen, maybe it got hacked 3 seconds before you got there. Just close it out. Reboot is a good idea too. Clear out your memory. If it goes away, you're good. It sounds like you're good. Great to hear from you, Shar. Thank you. Phone number 8888 Ask Leo. That's my number. Give me a ring. Let's talk high tech. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. Back to the phones we go. Line 4, Brian, San Diego. Hello, Brian.
Hi, Leo. I've been out of the loop now for a couple of years. I got rid of my ISP and my TV.
Wow, a few things have happened since since you were on the internet.
Yeah,
You're like Rip Van Winkle. You probably woke up and went, whoa.
yeah. So I was going to the library every now and then. I figured out, hey, I can do this Gmail account. So I got the
good
email again, so I can contact the modern world.
You'd kind of need email these days, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, it helps. And so then I lost my flip phone, and I've never had a smartphone until a week ago. And I was dealing with an auto service shop. I was dealing with a mortgage provider, and I was dealing with a roofer. And then I lose my flip phone. I'm like dead in the water there.
Oh, man.
So I bought a Samsung A50, and I'm happy with it. I'm stumbling around. I recently figured out how to send pictures to somebody.
Good. Isn't that fun?
And,
You're entering the 21st century. This must be very exciting. How's it been in the 19th century? Was it good?
yeah, it was. I saved quite a bit of money. I went through that in my home mortgage. And,
honestly, I kind of envy you the last 2 years. I think it might have been nice to go through the last 2 years without having any idea what's happening, just like a normal life, with your friends and jeez.
Yeah, the reason for my call is I'm ignorant pretty much on smartphones. I know to look for HTTPS, make sure a site is secure. If I'm going to throw I'm going to buy something online, auto parts, for instance, from a major auto retailer. But is there like a internet for smartphone dummies?
Oh, you mean like a book for dummies? So how do you learn best? You learn best with books, websites? Do you like to listen? Do you like to watch video? How do you learn best?
I like books. I read a lot. I have a large book collection.
Yeah.
And but it all works. I can watch YouTube videos and whatnot. And
I have to say, nowadays the kids, the way the kids learn these days is on the YouTube. I look at my son who's 24, and man, he wants to learn how to cook something. He'll go to YouTube. He wants to learn, how to ride a one-wheeler. He'll go to YouTube. Anything he wants to learn, how to fix a car, go to YouTube. So if you like watching videos, I don't like it. I'll tell you why I don't like it. Partly because I'm an old man, but mostly because video is very linear. And I like to skip ahead. I like to read fast, skip the parts I'm not interested in, go to the parts I am interested in. You can't do that with video. You're just kind of stuck there in a queue watching all this stuff you don't care about. And YouTubers have a bad habit. And I think this is actually something that YouTube kind of encourages. In order to get extra view and extra viewing time and make more money, they often take a long time to get to the point. Maybe that's just my age. Hi, guys. It's blah, 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 blah. In fact, they'll tell you what they're going to tell you. They'll tell you how exciting it is, what they're going to tell you. They'll say, that's like, we're 3 minutes in. Just tell me, for crying out loud. So I kind of like books, too. There are smartphone for dummy books. I wouldn't buy anything in the bookstore these days, and I'll tell you why. It's by the time they've printed a book, it's out of date. It's out of date. So learning, if I were you and you want to learn how to use stuff, there's a couple of ways to do it. If you like having somebody teach you, your local community college will almost certainly for free have good courses in their extension courses for people who are learning how to use technology, and that's a good thing to take advantage of. If it helps you to have somebody you can talk to, kind of a two-way street where they show you something, you say, well, what does that mean? And you can interact, because you can't do that with a web page. But if you're like me, I want to absorb as much information as fast as possible. I happen to like reading on the internet. There's a great site called How to Geek they've just done a great job of explaining technology. And now I don't know if it will be as beginner-oriented. A lot of the stuff is not beginner-oriented as you need, but it's certainly a place to start. And I think if you browse through their very long list of articles, you'll find stuff that's very interesting. But I'm trying to think of what the best place to learn to use an Android phone from the ground up. There must be a great website for that. But I just don't off the top of my head know what that is. Senior plan. Oh, here we go. Thank you, Marsworm. Our chat room came up with one. Marsworm. It's a site called, and it doesn't matter if you're a senior, seniorplanet.org/smartphones-for-newbies. That sounds like a good starting point. There is a YouTube video, how to use Android smartphones for beginners. That's on YouTube as well. Digital Trends has a beginner's guide to Android. And then How To Geek also has a number of articles about Android. I'm a big fan of How To Geek for the individual articles. Now, there is also, and this is one of the things you'll discover and maybe even be very excited about. Remember, I mentioned these extension courses at your local community college, but there are online courses as well. And some of these are very, very good. There's a online school called Udemy, udemy.com. And they're a mixed bag. Some of their courses are excellent, and they're usually on sale for next to nothing. And some of their courses are less so. But they do have a free course, so if it's not good, you could look at it. They do have a free course, Total Beginner's Guide, How to Use an Android Smartphone. That sounds like something maybe be good for you. It's video, but it's also it's kind of a mix of classroom and video. I'll put a link to that at our website, techguylabs.com. It's at Udemy, udemy.com. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. It's time for Chris Marquardt, our photo guy. He shoots Kodachrome. In fact, he even wrote a book about shooting film, which is crazy in this day and age, but he loves it. He also has a great book, which I have just read, on wide-angle photography. I'm a big fan of that. And, of course, he's a great photographer and leads wonderful photo workshops at Discover the Top Floor. And he's here with a consumer alert. Hello, Chris.
Speaking of film photography, one thing, I've never shot Kodachrome, believe it or not.
What?
And no, black and white mostly, and some slide films. And second, our film photography handbook, the second edition, is soon to be released. So
that's exciting.
So the topic is in motion. There is enough stuff to be updated and changed and added. So film photography is not dead.
It's equivalent to the people who grind their own flour.
Is it?
And, yeah, and listen to vinyl records. It's just that there's a certain there's a niche of nostalgic people, and there's a lot to be said for grinding your own flour. I have a little, it's German as a matter of fact, flour mill at home, and when I used to bake bread, I would grind my own flour. I can't eat bread anymore, but So
let's get to the consumer alert.
Yes.
This is one of these too good to be true stories. A bit over a month ago, a friend of mine approached me because he was super excited. He found these super cheap micro SD cards, these very tiny little memory cards, and there's an adapter they come with, and then you put them in your camera pretty much. So he pointed me to that resource, and it was for a 512 gigabyte micro SD card for $6, including shipping, by the way. Now, if you look at those in your local with your local dealer, we're talking $100 for one of those probably. So $6 for that's half a terabyte. That's a lot of
storage. Yeah.
Yeah. So for $6, okay. So there was one of these electronics dealers in China. and I ordered it, and it took 4 weeks to arrive. And of course, I knew this is impossible. Okay, so that is definitely not what it says on the tin. And I still wanted to try, because last time I fell for a fraudulent fake memory card. That must have been 7-8 years ago. So I wanted to see, has anything changed. Of course, that the card arrived. Actually, 2 cards arrive here: a 512 gigabyte and a 256 gigabyte card. They have they look official. They are at least they claim they're from Huawei. And I'm pretty much doing this so you don't have to. Okay, so we're looking at these cards, and of course, if you put them in your computer and you format them, they just behave like regular cards. So there's nothing wrong with them, apparently. But what happens here, at least one of the things that happen, is the manufacturers, when they make these cards, they don't make a 16 gigabyte and a 32 gigabyte and a 64 gigabyte card. They make just a few different models of cards, and then they test them after they make them. And when the test comes back and says, okay, I know there's a 128 gigabyte chip in here, but it's partially broken, there are some bad memory cells in there, then we'll just declare it a smaller card. So they go into the card and they reflash it in some automagic way, and they pretty much tell the card, no, you're not a big card because some of your memory cells are broken, so you are now a smaller card. That's perfectly fine. That's what they do. Now, the fraudsters, they get access to these broken cards and they reflash them. So the card claims that it's a bigger card, but it has broken memory cells in it. So this is at least one of the things that happen. Now, if you get a new card, and yeah, depending on where you get it from, it might be a bit difficult to find that out. But there are 2 tools that I want to point out here. One's for the Mac, one's for Windows. And the Mac tool, which is the one I use here, is called F3. F3 stands for Fight Flash Fraud. And it's a little, I think it's even an open source tool. It's not very comfortable. You have to be in a terminal. It's a command line thing. It's fairly simple, though. And it pretty much comes with 2 major commands. One is called F3 write. The other is called F3 read. So what you do is with the F3 write command, the tool will just fill up the card with a lot of 1 gigabyte files. And it keeps writing and writing until the card is full. And then you use that second tool, the F3 read, and that just reads those back. And it knows what should be in those different files. And if the files are not what they seem, or if the card does not deliver what the tool expects, then it tells you, gives you a little statistics over if the card is okay, if the stuff can be read back, and how fast the card is. So you have all the statistics that you need. And of course, using that on the 512 gigabyte card, first of all, it took like several hours to write those 500 something files on that. And that went well. It wrote the files just fine. But when I tried to read them back, guess how many gigabytes out of those 512 came back working?
Maybe 8?
14.
14. Ooh.
14 out of 512. So that's not a very good card. And especially
well, the worst
because
thing is you might put it in a camera or something, a phone.
It lets you write to it. That's the problem. Yes.
And you're going to take a lot of pictures, and then they're not there.
So that's the Mac tool. There's another one. It's called H2 Test W, which is the Windows tool by a German publisher, but I think it speaks English. So those are probably not the only tools.
I've used their software before too. They have a lot of great tools.
I think it works just fine, and it does pretty much the same thing. It writes to the card and then it reads it back and it gives you some statistics and tells you if it's broken or not. What's the conclusion? Because of course I did this to just see where we are, and
you knew you weren't going to get a 512 gig card for $6. You knew that, yeah.
Of course not, but it was worth spending for the 2 cards. I think I spent $10 together, so
wow.
It was worth getting this just for the story, you know.
Such a deal, yeah.
So conclusion, what do we learn from this? First, buy the cards where you can return them, right? I will not be able to get anything back for these cards.
No.
So buy them at a place where you know that they have a return policy. And if the cards are broken, then yeah, bring them back. Second, be religious with testing all the cards. And every single card that enters this house gets tested. And
that's actually a good idea. Yeah.
I'm only partially interested in how fast those cards are because they're never really as fast as they claim, but fast enough. But I want to know if a card is broken, if I have bad memory on a card. So I religiously test all the cards. No, there's no card that hasn't been tested. And the third thing that has worked for me, I haven't had any issues for the last probably 8 years with these kind of things, is stick with a brand that you know to be good. Mm-hmm. Now that's hard, easier said than done, because brands sometimes keep being shuffled around, but at least some of the bigger name brands, I think, should be fairly safe.
There's a huge problem with counterfeiting, even on places like Amazon, where you'd expect better. In 2010, I don't know if you know Bunny Wong, but he's an amazing guy who created the Chumby, and he bought SD cards for Chumbies and found a bunch of bad cards, did a lot of digging. I'll put a link in the show notes to his article. He found that some of the real factories at night were doing, one of the things you talked about, which is the bin sorting issue, but also manufacturing bogus cards with the proper stamps and everything.
Not surprised. Not surprised.
So, yeah, if you're going to rely on it, if you're taking it to a wedding, test it before you use it. Chris Marquardt's at discoverthetopfloor.com. Yeah. Yeah, this was a great story because he had all Bunny is like this crazy guy. He really dug into it. And,
I remember the Chumby.
Yeah, remember the Chumby? And he had a whole bunch of bad Kingston SD cards, and he looked at them. In fact, this is the most interesting picture. Whoops, let me go full. The card on the left is fake. The card on the right is real. And a couple of things he noticed. One, the fake cards, the serial number is silk screened on. And, that means every card has the same manufacturing ID. The real card, it's lasered on or pressed on somehow because it's changed for each card, right? Because that's the lot number.
Course.
So at least every 100 cards. So the fact that this was silk screened on was a very bad sign. Also, Kingston, the real Kingston, doesn't have that breakup in the D character. That's something SanDisk does. So this was a fake label entirely. Pretty amazing, I mean, but that's the point is that in China, they've got the manufacturer right there, and they can make these fakes.
Sure.
They can stamp them out.
And it's made. I mean, it's made. Even if they make entirely fake cards, they're making them probably on the same machines.
They look real on the same machines. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the binning problem is probably also very, very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was a great investigation Bunny did. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, and it's still happening. It's still going on.
That's what really irks me. It's worse because Amazon doesn't care so much about counterfeit stuff. And I've talked to
I've been lucky. Yeah. I've been lucky. I think I had one that just didn't work in the test that I returned a few years ago, but that was the only one. So I got lucky there.
Yeah. Yeah, if they were smart, they wouldn't charge $6. They'd charge a lot of money for the 512. But I guess they figure for $6 you'll just forget about it and move on.
That's exactly what happened here.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of cards to give away. You want those?
No, thanks. Quarantine them. Don't let them sneak into your regular. You don't use micro SD cards in your camera, though, do you? You just buy regular SD cards, yeah.
No, I don't. Yeah, but regular SD cards and still CF cards. My cameras still have CF slots.
Oh, you are an oldster. Yeah, my 5D Mark IV has two.
5D Mark IV, 7D Mark II. Yeah. They have one SD slot, one CF slot. Yeah.
Is there a reason to keep using the CF?
Not really.
They're just big, and I don't think they're faster. SD's gotten very, very fast.
Well, I had one SD card break. The between the contacts there are these little plastic bits, and some of that broke off, and it it got the mechanism stuck inside, so I couldn't.
Oh, that's
I couldn't get
terrible.
the card into the camera, so I had to have it repaired.
Oh,
so
that's expensive.
SD
That's
card
terrible.
disintegrated, which hasn't happened with any CF card. So
That's a good-
mechanically, I think the CFs are a bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because they have
A bit
the way
straight,
they're made. Yeah.
No, but in general, I think you're just fine with SD cards. I use mostly SD cards now.
Yeah, I do too. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. You know, Chris Marquardt, our photo guy, leaves us an assignment every week. Just an excuse to get out and take pictures. We usually do the same assignment for about a month, and then at the end of the month, he will review the images and pick 3 to talk about, and that's the only prize you'll get. But if you want to participate, it's a great excuse to get out there and take pictures. Our current assignment is door. He's going through the alphabet now. A, B, C, D. We're on D. So door. So take a picture in some interesting way of a door. Make it interesting. Make it creative. Make it technically challenging. Tag it with the word TG Door, Tech Guy Door, and then upload it to the Tech Guy group on Flickr. Flickr's a free photo sharing site. It's great. I love it. Flickr.com, and then the Tech Guy group. It's a big group, more than 10,000 members. Then you know you're in the right one. And upload it, and Renee Silverman, our moderator, will say, thank you. You can do 1 submission a week, so you've got a couple more weeks, I think, on the assignment. Take a picture illustrating the word door. Sal in San Diego's next. Hi, Sal. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hello, Leo. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
Just fine. Just had a couple questions in reference to a small tablet. I'm looking for a 10-incher. That's something I can put some photographs into and display them while I'm on the beach taking pictures.
Okay. You don't care. Okay. What else do you want about this tablet? Normally I would say get an iPad. That's always the best tablet to get. Because the Android tablets just are a little bit weak. Mostly because the Android software doesn't really work well with tablets.
Well, that's good to know. Would you recommend? Well, tell me what you'd recommend.
The cheapest iPad you can get. I get the sense. Kim says you were looking for something under $150. Is that right?
Yeah, I was just on the internet, and
that's going to be tough. That's going
miscellaneous.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. Walmart sells a tablet under $150. That's decent. I think they call it the Go. It's decent, but not great. I've honestly never thought a cheap Android tablet was worth the money you spend on it. There may be another good choice. Amazon subsidizes its tablets, so the Kindle Fire HDs, those are decent and they're cheap. But honestly, if you care at all about software, I think the iPad is about the only way to go. The least expensive iPad list is around $329. It's a little more than you're planning to spend, but I think you'll be happier with it in the long run.
Well, that's something to look at.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of it. I just started looking here a couple days ago,
Yeah,
so I thought I'd give you a quick
I don't want to use the word recommend ever for a cheap Android tablet, but they certainly exist. In fact, if you go to Walmart.com, you can look for their Walmart tablet, but you can also, they sell other companies' tablets, and you'll see there's a broad range. Samsung, which is the only other tablet manufacturer I'd consider, does have some pretty decent tablets. It's not so much, my problem is not so much with the manufacturer, although a $150 tablet's not going to be great, but you can get a Samsung Galaxy Tab A for $200. It's a decent tablet. They make good hardware, but the Android operating system itself is part of the problem because Android apps just are not written for the tablet ecosystem. In fact, Google has apparently given up on tablets of any kind. And I think that's a sign that they don't think Android really is well suited to tablets. So,
well, I have photos that I'd like to put on there. I'd like to put them on a thumb drive or an SD card and use that.
That's a problem with the iPad because the iPad doesn't let you connect a SD card or a thumb drive to it and copy files off. Only the new operating system, iOS 13, will allow that. Coming this fall. Currently, you can't just do that. You have to connect it up either wirelessly or wired to a computer and copy the photos over. So maybe you do want an Android tablet, because Android does support something called USB to go. And USB to go allows you to do exactly what you just described, which is hook a memory card up to the tablet and copy files over.
Well, that sounds like a good deal. I'll give that a look.
Look at the Acer has some decent tablets. Samsung has some decent tablets. I'd stick with the names, the bigger names. And you go to Walmart.com and look, and they have some. I can't believe they're still selling the ancient Google Nexus 7 tablet. They sell it for $100. Google hasn't made that tablet in 5 years, but they're still selling it. So, I mean, at least it's a good price. It's actually pretty close to the original price. I'm surprised. I would stick with if you want to do that, if you want to get your photos into it, not wirelessly but directly through an SD card, I would look at a Samsung tablet. Absolutely.
Okay. That sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, and they're decent. You'll be able to put Google Photos on there or Samsung's own gallery app. I prefer Google Photos. Copy the photos into that. And that's a pretty good thing for slideshow, to show people your pictures, that kind of thing. Walmart does sell some refurbished iPads, but again, if that's your goal is to easily copy files onto that, that's something that Apple doesn't want you to do. What a world. All he wants to do is have a decent tablet that he can copy his photos onto, and here Leo's making it complicated. Joe, Greenville, South Carolina. Hello, Joe.
Yes, sir, Leo. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure. What can I do for you?
I had a couple of questions, but I've got a real old S4 Samsung.
Okay.
And I think it's about time to bite the bullet and get something newer.
I think you're right.
It works great, and
here's
I
the
don't
problem.
have any trouble with it. I'm on T-Mobile.
Here's the problem with an older Android phone, and I include Samsung's S4 in that, is you're running older versions of Android, which are considerably less secure. So, unfortunately, if the phone's working fine, I see no reason to get rid of it, except for this one issue. Is the old operating system. You can get an S9 now. The current Samsung Galaxies are the 10s, but they're really pricey. But you can get an S9 at a pretty good price, and that's going to be
I'm looking for a mid-range price phone, and I've looked at the G7 that you
I love the
recommend.
G7. That's about what, 400?
And I can get one unlocked through Motorola for about $250.
That's a great price. Snap it up.
And that is great.
Yeah.
A great price. But the issue that I'm worried about is I've called Samsung and asked about a couple of models that they had, and they told me if I got an unlocked phone that some of the features on T-Mobile will not work. And they couldn't tell me
what features wouldn't work. I don't know what features they're talking about.
I don't know. They said maybe the Wi-Fi calling.
Yeah, Wi-Fi calling might not. Yeah.
And they said because they put software on there that allows you to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't.
But you could go to if you know you're going to stick with T-Mobile, go to T-Mobile. You should be able to get a better deal anyway.
Yeah, but the thing that I wanted to do is get it without all the bloatware.
Yeah, well, some of that bloatware you don't want, but if it's Wi-Fi calling, you might want it. Let me think about this. I'm using an unlocked Samsung Galaxy. Well, that's on Verizon. Let me see what I'm using on T-Mobile. I think it works. I think Wi-Fi calling works. There's also voice over LTE, which I really like. Both of those sound so much better than regular phone calls. Okay. But I have to say, if that's what they told you, I don't want to say they're wrong.
Well, I can't say because they couldn't tell me, and it was just a technical support person.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really.
He may know and he may not know.
T-Mobile.
Yeah. T-Mobile's going to know. There's the one who's going to tell you. And since you're a T-Mobile customer, you call them up and say, hey, I want to get the G7. And I'm
also looking at the...
by the way, I'm looking at T-Mobile's...
The Z4.
Okay, I'm looking at T-Mobile's support pages, and they do support Wi-Fi calling on a G7. So that is the good news. And you're also looking at a Motorola X. What did you say? Which one?
The Z4. And I don't know if it's available for T-Mobile or not.
As long as you get it unlocked, it should work on T-Mobile. That's a little more expensive. I'm not a big fan, to be honest with you, of the Z phones at this point.
Really?
Get the G7. That's a great price. I think you'll like it.
Yeah, I think I'll like it.
Yeah, I think you'll like
I
it.
mean, I just wanted something with a little bit better camera. The camera that I've got in my S4 is a 13 megapixel. The
well, don't
G7
judge it by
has
the
12.
Yeah, don't judge it by the megapixels. That's not everything's 12 now. The iPhone, the S10, everything's 12 now. It's not the megapixels that makes the difference. It's the software, the computational capabilities, and the quality of the sensor. I think the G7's a big step up. So they provide a that's interesting. They provide special software for the Wi-Fi calling. That's interesting. Hey, let me show you something. This is really cool. And it happens to be our sponsor for the Tech Guy Show today. This is the Helm Personal Server. I decided to stop using Gmail as my emails, you probably know, because I don't know, I just felt like there's too much of my information's in that mail. I wanted to use something that I controlled. And then I met Gary Srinivasan, who is the founder of Helm. He showed me this. This is the Helm. This is my personal, I want to call it email server, but it's got much more now than email. So I'll just call my Helm Personal Server. Look at it. First of all, it's cool. That is a pyramid shape, 128 gigs of storage. It's got an Ethernet port, but it also has Wi-Fi, 2 Thunderbolt ports, and I'll tell you what those are for. And up top, it's got a little Thunderbolt port. I'll tell you what that's for in a second. But let me first tell you why this is so cool. Running your own email server is hard. It's not something you want to do out of your house. Most internet service providers won't let you. They'll block outbound mail. Also, there's the issue of if you have a home internet address, Gmail and many other email companies will reject your email as spam. So Helm has figured out how to solve this. What the Helm server does is sets up a encrypted connection, an IPsec VPN connection to the Helm servers, and your email goes out of your server to them. The ISP can't block it. They can't even see it. Using their servers and their IP addresses. You get your own, but it's a dedicated IP address for you, but it's carefully chosen to make sure that it doesn't look like a spam IP address. It's a clean IP address. So you get a clean IP address. You can get outbound email. All your mail is stored here, safe. Furthermore, it's fully encrypted on here. That's what this top port is for. I've got my little Helm USB key. You put that in there, and that's your recovery credentials. And it's sent to the Helm servers, backed up on the Helm servers, first fully encrypted. They can't read it. Only you can read it using your special decryption keys. The other thing I love about the Helm, it's set up so authentication's done with your smartphone, with proximity. So it's a very secure server. Nobody can break into it. And if you don't believe me, read the article on The Intercept in April. End of April, Micah Lee wrote a great article about the Helm, about how it works and why it's more secure, theintercept.com. Setup is easy, takes less than 5 minutes. It's accessible anywhere in the world. It supports the most important email authentication protocols, DKIM, SPF, and DMARC. That's really important for getting your mail through, for making sure people on your end know it came from you, but also Gmail and other email servers will say, oh yeah, this is good. It's authenticated. It is not spam. Right now, 128 gig solid state storage, but it will be upgradable with external storage to 5 terabytes in the future. And there's a reason you might want to do that. They now support Nextcloud file sharing. So this now becomes a Helm file server. You can put files on there, file sharing, photos, photo backup. You can easily upload, view, and share your files and photos securely. This is a completely private alternative, not only to Google Mail, but Google Drive or Dropbox or anywhere you might be storing your stuff out there in the real world. Helm is amazing. What a great idea. I just can go on and on, but I want you to just check it out. If you believe in privacy, and certainly that's something we've been talking about a lot lately, it's a right, not a setting. Protect what matters with Helm. Right now, you get $50 off the Helm personal server when you go to thehelm.com/techguy, TheHelm, thehelm.com/techguy. I've been using this now for, must be almost coming on a year now, and I just love this thing. Thehelm.com/techguy. Unfortunately, it's very popular. It's, I think, currently sold out, but don't worry. If you go there, you can put a deposit down and get in line, and you'll be able to get your order next month. They expect to ship in August. So, and actually, wait a minute. If you've already placed your deposit, good news, you'll be getting yours this month. They've started resuming shipments. So they're making them as fast as they can. You know, it turns out people like the idea of privacy, running their own email server and their own file server. This is the easiest way to do it. It is great. And by the way, it looks great. You can put that in your living room. People say, what is that? Oh, that's just my server. Thehelm.com/techguy. Really, I think a very, very good idea. Highly recommended. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers and the internet and home automation and augmented reality and smartphones and smartwatches. You know, all this stuff, all those gadgets and G-Jaws that are changing our life. That's what we talk about right here. 8888-ASK-LEO. That's the phone number. 888-827-5536. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion, I'd love to talk to you about it. We're going to get right back to the phones now. Dave is in Black Rock, Arkansas. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Dave.
Hey, Dave. What can I do for you? Welcome.
Thanks for taking my call, first of all. I just wondered if you wanted to hear how I scammed the scammer.
Sure.
Okay. They called me up and told me that the Chinese and some illicit New York gang had hacked into my computer.
What? That's shocking. What did you do?
I acted all confused and everything, and I knew they were lying right off the bat because I don't have a computer. So I said, "Well, I'll play this game."
That's kind of a giveaway, isn't it?
Yeah. So I said, "Okay, I'll play this game." And so I go, "Oh, really?" I sounded real concerned. I said, "Well, I'd have to go all the way down into the basement. I'm kind of elderly. It'll take me a few minutes to get there. I don't have a basement." But anyway.
Well, you don't have a computer either, so you might as well just make the whole thing up at this point, right?
And so I kept going on, and then I finally said, okay, I finally made it downstairs. It takes a minute to warm up usually.
Oh, good. I love it. You keep them hanging.
And so then I said, okay, what do I got to do? He told me all the buttons I got to push and this and that. And I said, well, did it come through yet? And he's like, no. And I'm like, oh, really? I go, what kind of computer you got? He says, oh, I got a Macintosh. I said, oh, really? I go, well, let me try and send it again. And so I waited a little bit. I said, well, did it come through yet? And he's like, no, it still hasn't come through yet. And I go, well, I guess these imaginary ones aren't compatible with Macintoshes.
What did you say? What kind?
The imaginary kind.
Imaginary. Did he hang up right then, or did he swear at you first?
Oh, no, he started swearing up.
Yeah. They're known to take this poorly.
At first he said, I thought you said you had a computer. I said, no,
I do. I think I do. It's imaginary. I can't really see it, but I kind of think I do.
Yeah,
oh, man.
I at him that. I said, no, you're the one who called me and told me I had one.
That's true.
Then the swear word started. So I started laughing at him, and he cooled down a little bit. And I said, see how it feels to be the victim instead of the victimizer?
Good for you.
More times at him and hung up.
Good for you. So, now, I don't necessarily recommend this, but it's satisfying, isn't it? It's the new national sport. Take on the scammers. It's not going to slow them down. Well, I guess he couldn't scam anybody while he was on the phone with you, so to that degree it does. But, you know, he's not going to say, you know what I used to say is, does your mother know you're scamming people like this? And then they'd hang up on you. But I don't think it shames them. I don't think it hurts their feelings. I think they just say, well, that was a wasted call. Let's try another sucker.
As many words as he threw at me, I think it hurt his feelings. So I said, well, maybe it'll make him think twice about it.
Good.
You never know.
Well done, Dave. Well done. I'm glad you... These guys, you know, and you probably, everybody's received these calls by now, and I certainly hope anybody who listens to this show is smart enough. Smart's not the word, because it's not dumb. It's well-informed enough, maybe that's a better phrase, to know that this is not really Microsoft calling, or whoever they pretend to be, that they don't really know there's something wrong with your computer. In fact, as Dave points out, they don't even know if you actually have a computer. What they're hoping to do is find some sucker who will say, oh, well, and they walk you through a process. One of the things they often do is they ask you to pull up. Now, they presume that you're ignorant, so they say, pull up the event viewer. And oh, do you see all those X's and exclamation marks? Yep, that's what we thought. You've got viruses. Well, no, that's normal. The event viewer in the log, you see a lot of errors. That's normal, not a sign of anything. But they use that to reinforce it. And then eventually what they're going to do is either, A, ask you for money. Now, that's bad because, A, you're giving them money. B, they now have your credit card. Who knows what they're going to do with it. And then they ask you for remote access to your system. Well, I could fix that now that you've given me $350. Let me fix that for you. Once they've got remote access to the system, they could put anything on there they want without your knowledge. So best just, all honesty, best just hang up on them. And let your friends and relatives who don't listen to this show, let them know. It's bogus. It's not real. They're trying to scam you. It's a shame that we have to put up with this. It's no fun to live in a world where you can't trust people, you know. And in fact, I was just reading a little bit about the notion of trust. If you live in a world where you can trust people, the people around you, things work much better. You don't have to verify everything. You don't have to take time to make sure that you're not getting scammed. The mental energy, the physical energy to protect yourself, you don't have to use any of that. You could just operate freely and without friction in a world where there's trust. And, of course, if you're in a world where there's a lot of trust, inevitably there are going to be bad guys. There are going to be scammers who say, oh, this is a fertile ground. We could take advantage of these people because they're so trusting. But the benefits of trust so far outweigh the risks of trust that it is better to be in a world where you can trust people. It is better to be trusting. So let's not let this harden us and make us cynical. Let's continue to be trusting, but maybe we should trust but verify, in the old phrase. And just be aware that there are plenty of people in a world where people are trusting. There are lots of people who will take advantage of that. I don't know what the answer is, but the answer, I can tell you what the answer is not, and it's to lose faith in your fellow man, because most people are good. Roger in Pasadena, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Roger.
Hey, Leo, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
Good. Hey, I've got quite a few old hard drives. Some of them work, but they're real small, and I have no use for them. Some of them don't work at all. The computer doesn't recognize them.
Yeah.
And I want to send them to eWaste, but I want to make sure all the data is off them before I give them away. And I've been looking for both a software solution to wipe it or something else. And one of the things I came up with was I've read a couple places that you can just hit it with a hammer to destroy it, which seems like the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, but it's not. Yeah, I mean, if you don't want it to be recycled, you have no desire that it be preserved. Yeah, you could easily take these things apart. Even be careful. But take these apart and you can bend the platters. The protocol, I've been told, in the British Secret Service is to disassemble the hard drive, grind the disks where the data is stored down to a fine metallic sawdust, and then store the sawdust in the basement at GCHQ forever. But that presumes that there's an adversary out there with some pretty sophisticated tools. If the hard drive still works, it's sufficient not to format it, not to partition it, but to use a secure eraser. The one we always recommend is DBAN, Derek's Boot and Nuke, DBAN. You can Google it. If you can get the hard drive to mount, that's easy. And then what it does is it writes over the data and then erases it and writes over it again. And that really is sufficient, unless you have the British Secret Service on your tail. That's sufficient. If you can't boot it, it sounds like you have a lot of hard drives you can't. Yeah, hitting it with a hammer is going to work if you can hit it hard enough to bend the case and destroy the platters. But those cases, I don't know if you've tried this yet. They're pretty tough. All of them are unscrewable. They all have screws, so you can disassemble them. Be careful with the platters, and I'll tell you why. My friend Patrick Norton was doing a segment on how to destroy the data on your hard drive, precisely this, before you give them away. And he had a hammer, He opened the hard drive, took the platters out, hit it with a hammer. What he didn't realize at the time is that some hard drive platters are not metal, some are glass. And he hit the glass with a hammer and practically poked my eye out as the shards went flying. We weren't wearing safety glasses. So be careful until you determine, if you're going to hit it with a hammer, that it's not glass. Be very careful. But yeah, that would work. What a lot of electronics recyclers do, and you should see before you bring it to the e-waste recycling, but they might do this. They have a giant magnetic conveyor belt called a degausser. And the hard drives go in the degausser and go through a very strong, and it has to be super strong, magnetic field to completely erase the contents of the drive. And a good e-waste recycler will do that. Whether yours in your neck of the woods does, I don't know. But that is a very good idea if you have it, if you get a degausser. You're not going to buy a degausser. It's very, very expensive.
Yeah.
But do ask if your e-waste provider has that, and if they use it, you may not have to worry so much about doing it yourself.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. It's a great question. It's led to some very interesting television segments. We also did one that didn't go so well, involving the use of thermite. I'm not sure if you're familiar with thermite. It's an explosive used by the military. Metal powder, and when it's lit on fire, it becomes extremely hot. So it doesn't actually explode. It just burns very, very hot. And they thought, oh, this will be fun. They brought some hard drives, put them in his backyard. This is his first error. Put some thermite on it, lit it on fire, practically burned the neighborhood down. Do not attempt this at home. Although it made for an excellent television segment. Yeah. I think probably if you're really, best thing to do is when you take a drive out of commission, when you're not going to use it anymore, best thing to do is at that time, fully erase it. I'll tell you, no, I've got an even better thing to do. And this is something you should all be doing from now on. When you get a new computer or a new hard drive, turn on full disk encryption. That's a good idea anyway, because it keeps a bad guy from stealing your data. If he gets your laptop, he takes the drive out, he looks at it, he can see your data. So whenever I get a new system, all Macintosh systems come with File Vault, just turn that on. Unfortunately, Windows Home does not come with BitLocker. You have to have Windows Pro, which is really annoying because there's many, many, many millions of Windows Home users. But there are third-party tools like VeraCrypt, or your BIOS might have an encryption technology built in. Turn those on, especially solid-state drives. There's no good, easy way to destroy the data on a solid-state drive at all. But if you turn on full disk encryption, even if somebody gets the drive without the password, without the decryption keys, it's just gobbledygook no matter what. So you don't have to even worry about it from that point on. So from now on, when you get a new hard drive or you get a new machine, full disk encryption before you put anything on it, and you don't have to think about it ever again. You can give those hard drives to anybody you want. It's useless to them. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. My phone number is 8888 Ask Leo if you want to talk high tech. I want to talk high tech with you. And I got Andrew on the line from Riverside, California. He's next. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Leo.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. What can I do for you?
Well, before I ask a question, I actually got scammed by that SD card thing.
Ugh.
Yeah, I got, was it 256 gig for about $8, and I use it on my phone to try to transfer files since my phone takes up some memory, and it says I don't have enough room to move a 500 megabyte
There you go.
file.
That's right. That's the giveaway.
So, yeah.
I get calls from people all the time saying, I have a terabyte SD card, but it says I don't have enough room. I don't understand what's going on. And that these are counterfeit cards, basically.
Yeah, so I just ordered me a good one from a good company, SanDisk.
Yeah, I like SanDisk. The problem really, though, and it's not just memory, it's all sorts of stuff, is that Amazon does not police very well for counterfeits. About half the stuff you buy on Amazon isn't from Amazon. It's from third-party sellers. And they aren't really doing much to police that. I want them to do more. And so do a lot of companies. I've spoken to people at printer companies, for instance, who really have very little recourse. People will buy branded ink from, supposedly, but it's counterfeit, doesn't work well, and they put bad reviews on it saying, this company's ink's terrible. And the company says it's not our ink; these are counterfeit, but we can't stop it. So it's a real issue. Amazon has got to do something about this. Anyway, that's not why you call. What can I do?
We should have looked at my wife and look at the reviews first, but neither here nor there.
Well, the reviews won't help you necessarily. Who knows where those are reviews of? They're not necessarily of the card you're buying. That's the other thing. As you may have noticed, reviews apply to the kind of more like the category than that one particular vendor.
Yeah, I looked at those reviews and they were all bad for that product. But
well, then there you go. Next time, live and learn. At least you didn't lose a lot of money.
No. So yeah, I have a Lenovo Yoga 720 based on the ideas that you gave me when I bought my computer.
Love my Lenovo Yoga. Yeah.
I love the computer. It's fantastic. Everything I wanted and more.
Yeah.
But on occasion, my fingerprint reader will stop working, so I go to my settings. It says Windows Hello is not for this device, which it is. And normally I just do an update, it'll work, and then fine. But this time I did an update and it won't recognize it at all. So all the normal recourse I take isn't working.
Windows 10, obviously. You know what I would do is go to Lenovo and get their drivers as opposed to whatever Microsoft's shipping with Windows Update. Sometimes it's the case that Microsoft's updates are not specific to the hardware you have. Always, I would say, go to Lenovo, go to the Yoga 720 page, get the current drivers for the fingerprint reader. I think you're going to be better off. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I have a ThinkPad Yoga and never had trouble like that, but I'm going to guess that's because there's something that Microsoft drivers are doing or not doing that the Lenovo drivers do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this is getting annoying because I have a long password, and I don't want to use it.
No, I love the fingerprint reader is great. It should work. And they say specifically in the specs for the Yoga 720, Windows Hello compatible. So I'm going to guess that if you go to that page, Lenovo offers their own drivers, and I'm going to guess that that's the issue. It's not unusual for that to happen.
Alrighty.
Do you use the Lenovo updater? Press F11, F12 to get the Lenovo Advantage app running. And update through that, because they will do their own Lenovo updates as well. In fact, that's what I always use on a Lenovo.
Okay.
And not Windows Update, but Lenovo's own Lenovo Vantage updater. I bet you that'll work better for you.
So would that be the ThinkVantage technology that I'm looking at?
Yeah, I mean, you have an older system. It comes up when you press F12. I think they call it...
It's a year old, so it's not too old.
I think they call it Vantage. Make sure use the Lenovo, and there's an update button on that, and use that for both Windows updates and Lenovo updates. It's called Lenovo System Update on John's. Mine's called Vantage, but that's on the ThinkPad, so maybe that's a ThinkPad thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at their website now.
Yeah, but if you do it through the software on the Yoga, that probably is your safest way to do it, because I notice all the time they have dedicated updates for things like the trackpad, and I bet you for the fingerprint reader at all. They're Lenovo drivers, not the Microsoft drivers.
So I don't usually see a Lenovo offer me updates. Is that something I have to look for?
Yeah, you have to actually launch their updater.
Oh, okay. That's why.
I always do that first and then do Microsoft updates after that. But actually, at least on the ThinkPad, and I can't promise it's on the 720, but at least on the ThinkPad, the updater offers updates from both Microsoft and Lenovo. It does them both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then I will look into that.
Yeah,
right now.
I bet you that's a safer, and probably will solve the whole problem. I bet you that's why you've been having the problem all along. Yeah. So the old update program, Chumley, I think that was my experience too. That was called Update, and then they changed it to Vantage. That's the new one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep, I have that on here.
Yeah, that's what you want to use. Now, a number of people are mentioning that there have been problems maybe with that fingerprint reader, and it could be that's what's wrong, is that you have a flaky fingerprint reader. So,
at
that point, that's a call to Lenovo.
All right, Leo, I really appreciate your help.
Thank you for calling. I hope you enjoy it. That 720 is a nice system.
I love this program. When I spent the money for it, I said I knew this was going to be a good computer to keep for a long couple of years.
Yeah, and when you get tired of Windows in a few years, you get a new Windows machine, put Linux on it. Linux runs beautifully on ThinkPads. It's like they were made for running Linux.
Huh, that's something I've been thinking about Linux, and I was thinking about getting a computer, but that's...
You can even dual boot. I would look at Pop OS from System 76. Pop OS, that's my current favorite Linux. I'm running it right now on a Lenovo ThinkPad 470S in front of me right now, and I run it on my ThinkPad X1 2 at home. And I love it, and it works flawlessly out of the box. Everything works, except maybe the fingerprint reader. I think Lenovo has a proprietary fingerprint reader. I think that's why you're having the issues.
Yeah, it does on occasion, but normally an update will fix it, but not this time.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Line 1, Brian, Salem, Oregon. Hello, Brian. Leo Laporte.
Hi, Leo. I'm hoping you can help me figure out a weird little problem I'm having.
I would be glad to.
I got a letter from Comcast saying in our area they'd up the speed to 150, and so they said my previous modem was, no longer supported and stuff, and it'd be wise to get a newer, faster one. So I did.
Right.
I got one off their list, a Netgear CM1000.
Very good. Okay, good choice.
When I plug it in directly into my desktop computer, the speeds do hit 130 to 150.
Yeah.
But then when I take that cable and plug it into my, also a Netgear Wi-Fi router, AC 1750, and then take that bypass from one of those 4 output cables and put it back into my desktop.
Oh, no.
And do the test speed again.
Yeah.
The speed's only 20.
What? 20? What?
That's what I say. And then if I take the router again and plug it directly into the back of my...
Yeah. So you're getting the full speed.
Back to 150.
You're getting the full speed. That's good.
But when I plug it into the router, so that my wife on her laptop that's over...
Oh, you want to use a router. How about is it a Wi-Fi router or just a wired router?
The router...
The 1750, is that it is a Wi-Fi because it's AC. Yeah. So it's a 802.11 AC. How about the Wi-Fi speed? Is that also 20 megabits?
Yeah, around there.
Okay. So I'll tell you a couple of things. First of all...
I went in and actually it was even worse the first time. It only was 9. So I went in to my desktop and disabled all the Wi-Fi on it, so it was only looking at the cable, which took it from 9 up to 20, but that still wasn't 150.
Okay, let me tell you a couple of things. First of all, the new standard that the cable company is using to get that higher speed is probably DOCSIS 3.0. Your older cable modem was not DOCSIS 3 compatible, so you got one that's DOCSIS 3 compatible. That's good. And actually, that Netgear is a very nice cable modem. And you were smart. You got the recommended one. So you're getting full speed, and you know it because when you plug the computer directly into the cable modem, you get 150 megabits per second. Mm-hmm. That's the best way to test it. So something's happening at that Netgear AC 1750 that's not good. How old is that router?
Brand new.
Brand new. So you got this router at the same time as you got the new modem?
Yeah, well, 2 days later.
Oh, all right. I would try different... first thing I do is make sure it's not the cable.
Yeah, I've tried different cables.
Okay. And then the second thing is maybe it's your wife's computer, if you connect it directly, gets 150 megabits?
I haven't hooked hers directly.
I would try that.
It would.
I wouldn't assume that. So that may be a limitation of her Ethernet. So make sure that, in other words, I'm eliminating all the things that are easy to eliminate. The cable, her computer. When you connect your computer to the router, in other words, put the router in between, do you also get much slower speeds? Haven't tried that either.
When it's going from the modem to the router and then from that hard cable to the back of my computer, that's when it drops to 20.
It is dropping to 20. All right. I would first try Wi-Fi, see how fast Wi-Fi is. You might have a faster Wi-Fi router. If you're sure it's not your computer, and are they older computers?
It's not all that old. It's Dell.
Okay. Because remember, the older Ethernet adapters were 10 megabit, and then they made them 100 megabit, and then they finally made them 1,000 megabit. The age of your Ethernet connection might affect that. I would make sure you have the latest firmware on the router. And then sometimes routers do something called quality of service. They actually do this on purpose to make sure that you're getting the speed that you need for all the devices. Because remember, the router's splitting up that 150 megabits to multiple devices. Your router may be trying to be intelligent, limit the amount of speed any one device can get. I doubt it, but make sure QoS is turned off. I think you really want to make sure you've got good Ethernet cables. That's the other thing. Because remember, again, Ethernet went from 10 megabits to 100 megabits to a gigabit. If you have an older Ethernet cable that isn't capable of the higher speed, that could be the problem as well. So what I'd like you to do is try the Wi-Fi first, because that eliminates the Ethernet problem entirely. See if the Wi-Fi is also really slow. If it is, okay, well, we know it's not the Ethernet port or the Ethernet cable. It could be QoS in the router. Probably not. Reset the router completely, start over, make sure you've got the latest firmware. And if it continues to slow you down, that's a big factor. If it continues to slow you down by that much, you might just have a bad router. I'd take it back and say, look what it's doing. This is bad. Try other ports on the router and so forth. But I think that sounds like if everything else is eliminated and it's still happening, that's got to be the router. It's not right. It shouldn't be slowing you down by that much. You might see some overhead. Sometimes you do. Not unusual. On Wi-Fi, often you see overhead. Wi-Fi, often only gives you about 60% of the total available bandwidth. But you should see, even then, you should see more than 20 megabits. You should be seeing 80 or 90 megabits on a 150 megabit connection via Wi-Fi. So check that Wi-Fi. See how that's working. You might just have a bad router. I mean, it's completely possible. They crank these out 100 a minute. Mickey is next on the line from New London, Missouri. Hello, Mickey.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much. What's going on with you?
You had mentioned that power wash earlier. What is that?
So it's one of the best features of Chromebooks is power washing. One of the reasons I tell people it's a great idea to get a Chromebook is because when you get in trouble, it's very hard to get in trouble in the first place because the Chrome OS is designed to be as secure as possible. One of the things Google does with Chrome OS is if the firmware, the operating system, is modified in any way, it won't boot. It'll say, hey, something bad's happened here. It shouldn't be modified like this. It's signed. It's secure. It also, because it's not a full operating system like Windows or Mac OS, it's very constricted, and so it's a lot harder for bad guys, malware, to get on it. But if anything should get on it, and it could happen because you are using a browser, you're using a Chromebook to get outside to the outside world, and the outside world is full of threats. Something, maybe what we call a browser hijacker object. If you accidentally install a bad extension, it causes problems, and you're saying, well, something's wrong. There's a setting in Chrome OS, I love this setting, to wipe the drive and start over. It's called Power Wash. It resets your Chromebook to factory settings. Now, how you get there will depend on the age of the Chromebook and the manufacturer of the Chromebook, but it's in the settings somewhere. Now, here's the thing. Power washing resets the entire hardware ecosystem, including anything you've saved to the hard drive. People who use Chromebooks typically don't save stuff to their local drive, not like Windows or Mac OS. They use Google Drive, the cloud drive, for their data. Power washing doesn't touch the cloud drive. In fact, this is why power washing is such a great idea on a Chromebook, because after you power wash your Chromebook, it'll go back to the state it was from the factory, including not even knowing who you are. But you then log into your Google account, just as you did when you first got that Chromebook, and it goes, oh, it's Mickey. And it logs into your Google Drive. All the stuff that was there is still visible. Any settings you made to Chrome OS, any themes you'd applied, any extensions you'd applied, all your bookmarks, all of that flood back into the Chromebook. And if you've been doing it without saving stuff locally, which is kind of recommended, you'll be back up and running in literally a minute. And all the malware will be gone. So this is a really great feature of Chromebooks. One of the reasons I like them so much. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thanks to Big Pee-wee, Damien, who's doing all the music for us today, our musical director. Nice job today, Damien. Thanks, too, to Kim Schaffer. She's the one who's been taking your calls, getting you on the air. And thanks to all of you who've called in and listened in. I appreciate that. Couldn't do this show if we didn't have an audience. Then I'd have to do something, work for a living. That wouldn't be good. Jerry in Hatfield, Pennsylvania. Hello, Jerry. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Lou. I've got a problem that probably affects everybody on the internet at one time or another.
My goodness. What
you
would
go
that
there,
be?
you Google something for some information.
Yeah.
And it'll have a bunch of pages come up, and they'll have for the same article, they'll have different information, and they contradict each other. And above all, there's no date on it, so you don't know when it was written.
Yeah, I hate that.
Is there any way you can tell when it was written?
From the Google search results or from the site that you go to?
Either.
Either. Be nice, wouldn't it, if Google would show you the date? They used to do that, actually.
And why in the heck don't they have a sunset? So if you don't check on your web page and update it every year, it disappears.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Well, I mean, there's sites that are on the internet that haven't changed in years that are still good. So I don't think you'd want to expire sites that weren't good.
Well, you have to go back and check it up, make sure they are good.
This is a skill that is not non-trivial, and I think they should teach this in 6th grade. Everybody needs to know how to vet the sources you find on the internet, because as time goes by, we're learning that more and more of what's on the internet is useless junk. And how do you know when the sites are good, and how do you know when the sites are not good?
Here's something else for you, Leo.
Yeah.
You plug in, I say you want to go to a pancake breakfast. I've had it, so it comes up, and we'll say pancake breakfast, 121 Main Street at 7 a.m. Doesn't give you the town, doesn't give you the city, no phone number. They assume that you know where they're at.
It is a pet peeve of mine. A lot of times, in fact, you see this a lot. If you follow, people on Twitter or Facebook or Reddit, people will repost stories from years ago, not realizing this is an old story. And then it'll get reposted again. It's from 2013. But people aren't paying any attention. Now, many times, especially on sites that are publishing like journalism, they'll have a date on that. But there are a lot of sites that don't have a date, and I really find that very, very annoying.
Me too.
So, I don't know what to say except yes, we should. I'm just looking at Google to see if there's any way you can. I'll tell you, there is a way if you go to the advanced search on Google. So if you're looking at a Google search page,
okay,
there is a button that says advanced. It's under settings. So you go to settings and you go to advanced search. And then if you look, narrow your results by last update. So you can say, I want to see only sites, and I actually do use this all the time. You can do it under tools too. There's also a tools button. You'll see when you hit tools, it'll drop down something that says anytime and all results. And you can use that to narrow it. So I will often say, I want to see articles from the past month. Or I want to see all the results, or I just want to see, like, if there's because Google tries to remove duplicates and stuff like that. But yeah, try that. Actually, that's something maybe that would help. It won't always help, but it will help a little bit, is click the tools in the Google search. Once you get a Google search listing, click tools. I wonder if it does it on the main Google page. Let me see.
I'm in advanced search, I see the options.
Yeah.
I don't know where this existed.
Yeah. Okay. Google used to have it more visible. But they've kind of hidden it because their idea is, well, it should just work. But if it doesn't just work, then... So I'm searching for Eiffel Tower, for instance. Now, if you search for Eiffel Tower, you're going to find historic articles. You're going to find, articles from years ago. But let's say I want to see, well, did something happen recently in the Eiffel Tower? So I'll get the search results. Over on the right, there's Tools. And once you open that Tools menu, you see I can say anytime, past hour, past 24 hours, past week, month, or year, or set a custom range. So if I want to say I only want to see stuff written about the Eiffel Tower 10 years ago, I can even say that. Or I only want to see stuff written about the Eiffel Tower, and I do this a lot when I'm doing my news research in the last month. I don't want to see old stuff. I want to see new stuff. And that's very helpful for me because I use the internet all the time to gather news stories for this show and the other shows that I do on our podcast network. And I don't want to be doing a story from 2013 acting like that just happened. So Tools is a very useful tool. I wish there probably is, I bet you there is in the Google search syntax, a way to do that in the actual search. But, let's go look at the Google search. There are 42 advanced operators in Google search, and I bet you there's one that there's date in there somewhere as well. So you can do it in the search terms. My pleasure. I'm glad to help you. It's a great issue. And Google knows, by the way, it's doing it based on when the site was updated. And even if a site doesn't put a date on the page, which they should, I always do, but if they don't, at least we'll know when it was updated. Yes, what was your other question?
I just came from a Microsoft store, and he said about Bing, what they call it, Bing?
Yeah.
B-I-N-G?
Yeah, Bing.
It's not Google.
Bing is not Google. I wonder if they knew that when they made it up.
Is that cool?
Bing is not Google. That's a very good acronym. You think that's where the name came from? Maybe it did.
Bing because it's not Google, yeah.
I remember we talked about other names that Microsoft was thinking about for Bing, and there were some very bad ones. It's hard if you think about it, to get a name that's global, can be used worldwide, that you can get the all of the URLs, domains for worldwide. Bing.cn and Bing.tv and all that stuff. I wonder if they thought about Bing is not Google, according to Microsoft.
Because it's not Google. That's what he told me.
Yeah, because it's not Google. I like that. I like Bing is not Google. That's what we call a recursive acronym. They did think about apparently the word bang for a while, but chose not to use that, which is probably a good idea.
Strange.
Yeah. And I guess because Bingo, Bingo, I found it. I think Bing's actually a pretty good name for a search engine. If you're not going to be Google, be Bing. Hey, I appreciate the call. That's a great question. How do you know if a site in your search results is out of date? Use that time feature. Now, Chris, our last call of the day from Los Angeles. Hi, Chris.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I have a project. I'm supposed to transfer about the information from 20 SCSI hard drives.
Oh, no.
I know. I use G-RAID drives. I'm trying to transfer that material to some new external hard drives using my Mac. Do you have any suggestions? Because I can't find any cables or any adapters or anything like that.
SCSI, which is an old user interface, Apple made it popular, pre-FireWire, Small Computer Systems Interface, I think it stood for. Do they not sell SCSI to USB adapters? Can you...
I looked and I couldn't find any. I mean, there's a one Omega Jazz cable, but supposedly it only works with Jazz product or something like that. JAZ.
Cable matters, USB to SATA. This is an interesting conundrum. You only need it for this one time. You're never going to use it again. I'm gonna have to punt because we're out of time. Hang on, and maybe we can find something for you after the show ends. But I got to wrap it up right now. For those of you listening all along the radio network, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I'll be back next week. We can talk high tech once again. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Don't forget, everything we talk about, including the answer to this question, if I can find it, will be on our website, techguylabs.com. There's no sign up for that. It's free, wide open. You can even leave your comments. So if you've got a good way to connect SCSI to Macintosh, go there, techguylabs.com. Have a great Geek Week. So the problem for you is you're doing it on a Mac, right? Because there are SCSI cards that you could put in a PC, Boy, that's a really, it's funny. I haven't even thought about SCSI in years.
I'm an archivist, and I'm working with a lot of big-time musicians, bands, that have been around for over the last, say, 50 years. And I have all these projects that's where I'm having a problem. When I get to the SCSI drives, I don't know how to transfer that material off.
Wow, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it updated,
Please.
Keep up with technology.
Please.
Yeah.
I have a friend worked in radio in Toronto for decades, John Donaby, who had reel-to-reel interviews with every major musician from the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. Everybody. And I said, John, do not leave those in your garage. They're going to fragment and fall apart. Let me help you. And he never let me help him. I hope those tapes are getting converted at some point. All right, I'm looking at an article. This is from Macworld magazine from 2014. How to recover data from an old SCSI drive. And it looks like, now I bet you they don't make it anymore, but Adaptec, which is a name we will all remember from those days, used to make something called the USB Exchange, which has a SCSI port on one end and a USB port on the other end. But I don't know if they still make it. Let me put the link to this article because it has other solutions too. How to recover. It's exactly what you want to do. It is 5 years old, unfortunately, but maybe some of these solutions will be of use to you. And you're going to be doing this some more, I have a feeling, because
absolutely
a lot of music was recorded on those old SCSI drives.
Well, I'm working with 9 Inch Nails, and they have these are the first 20, and they have another 50 that they're going to bring over. Yeah.
You'd have thought, I mean, of all people, 9 Inch Nails, he's super techie.
Oh, yeah, he's tech forward, yeah. And, it's weird because this is the first time that they've kept a lot of material, up to date in regards to using G-Tech drives and transferred reel-to-reel stuff. But this older stuff on the SCSI drives has just sat there. And I'm just imagining maybe somebody just didn't do their due diligence and thought it was too difficult and just moved on. And
you'd think. I mean, Trent released. I remember was the first to release 9 Inch Nails in GarageBand format, so you could remix it. I mean, he was still is. He's a really hip fella. Boy, I'm shocked.
I know. So now my task is to get this done if I can.
Here's what you need to do. Mac OS 8 and 9 drivers. Oh, man. This is crazy hard.
Yeah, and it's like one big hole in the technology side of this kind of stuff because everything else you can find, but this particular thing
here's where I'm finding links. This comes from that Macworld Expo.
Okay.
Macworld article, I mean. Microsemi.com, microsemi.com. Looks like you'll need drivers. They make this, they bought, I guess, this Adaptec USB exchange, or they sell it. Looks like they might still sell it.
Okay.
And they offered the drivers, because these are going to be recorded in OS 9 format. So you're going to need a driver just to access these.
Well, I have a couple of old laptops.
And
I'm wondering if they might have.
Yeah.
I know
You'd be better off if you had an old Mac, like a Mac OS 9 Mac of that era. In fact, what may end up being what you're going to have to do is get on eBay and buy a Mac with a SCSI port. It will have the proper drivers. Get it onto that. Once you get it onto that, then you can, upload it or do something to save them.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Well,
I know you're a busy guy.
Chris, thank you for saving these, because these archives are, just so valuable.
Yeah, and I've got Jackson Browns. I've got a new National. He has a bunch of them as well, and I have Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Oh man, do you do this for a living? Is this part of a job?
Yeah. No, I've got about 30 clients that I work with, and I've worked with over the years, and they're all really high profile. Pretty much most are musical groups or musicians. I have I handle the John Wayne Film Archive, and also Quentin Tarantino stuff as well.
Oh,
but,
man. So
yeah,
this
it's
is a
pretty cool.
unique, I mean, so you deal with data in all kinds of weird formats that you've got to recover.
Oh, yeah. And I have Frankie Valley, too, so that goes way back. So it was almost like a historical, technical sort of layering when I would go through this material, starting out with the oldest stuff. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I just read the New York Times article about the Universal Studio lot, and they had hidden the fact that there were masters in a warehouse there for everybody that were destroyed. They pretended that nothing was lost. And for an archivist like you, what a horrific loss.
Well, all of my clients whose names were put onto that list have been emailing me or calling me saying, Chris, can you verify what masters you have? And so that's what I just got done doing Crosby Nash's stuff and Crosby's stuff. Yeah, it's pretty.
It's horrific. And in those days, and still happens today, these groups didn't own the masters. They trusted the record label to preserve them.
Well, I'll tell you a little story. I make a fast one. A friend of mine handles Lyle Lovett.
Oh, I love Lyle Lovett.
Yeah, and he's an engineer, and he was basically, he had all of Lyle's stuff, his album stuff, in his studio, and Universal got to a point where they asked for him a number of times to be brought back to Universal, and this guy said, no, I'm sorry, we're going to keep him here, we feel like they're safer.
Yes.
Long story short, they sued this guy to get all the stuff brought back to Universal. It was brought back to Universal, and then the fire happened.
Oh, my. Yeah, they mentioned Lyle Lovett in that Times article.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's unacceptable. That's.
Yeah, and but all these guys are kind of lining up to see if they're going to sue Universal. And there was I think one of the judges, big-time judge in Colorado, is handling Lyle's stuff. And there's a whole wave of lawsuits that are in the pipeline. So this stuff is all trying to be verified from different sources to see what is actually missing, because Universal does not really have any record.
No. Well, and they don't want any. This Times article was very bad news for them. They don't want anybody to know this happened. They hid it for years.
Yeah, and they're probably not going to show the records, even if they have.
No. This is a nightmare from their point of view.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I know.
Well,
I know.
Thank you for saving this stuff.
Oh, it's my honor, really. I feel like.
Well, if you're a fan, this is vital stuff. This is stuff to be cherished.
Oh, it is. I feel like I'm the steward of a ship.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'll keep looking. If I find something, we'll put it in the show notes. Anybody who's listening who has some suggestions. And then I also put in the show notes this Macworld article with the link to the Adaptec. You might have to find it on eBay, but I bet you it's around. I bet you it's around.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it, and I love your show. I listen to you whenever I can, and you're really great, and you're just a really good guy on the air. Like,
thank you, Chris.
You're very accessible. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm grateful. Thank you.
You got it.
Take care.
Thank you again.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Next time. Bye-bye.
Wow. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.